It says you're live.
All right.
We're live on the YouTubes. Okay, so the exposure is not too bad.
Yeah, not bad. Auto exposure.
So this is going to be for posterity for the people that watch this after we do this, because nobody's in here right now. We do have a way to tell that, right?
Everyone's working.
So hello, I'm Michael Band, publisher of Retro Lovely. This is Johnny Armios.
Hello.
Did I pronounce that right?
You got it.
Okay.
Armios. Yep.
He's the head honcho at Hellcat A-Go-Go Studios, one of our partner studios, and has been for the past 3-ish years. And we are here today in their studio in Ledyard.
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 Yes, Ledyard.
There's no G, but it sounds like it.
I don't know why we pronounce it that
Ledyard.
way. Just a weird Connecticut thing. I don't know.
So, oh, good. I could see that we have the meter for the audio as well.
Cool.
And it looks like it could be a little bit louder, but oh well. We'll see what happens. So I came here yesterday to visit and actually do some work with Johnny. In addition to being one of our partner studios and contributing content to the publications for the last 3 years, he's also recently come on board in a production capacity, helping us do layout work and some of the administrative things that goes with this. About how many months now has that been?
2.5 months.
About 2.5 months?
Yeah.
Some of you who see this may recall back in March, we had a pretty seismic shift in how we do things with regards to the submission process. And that's just the tip of the iceberg because it also affects the production process on the back end. The entire, it's great.
Yeah.
There's a cat under here, right? If this is shaky.
This is shaky is because we have Michael's laptop on my cat's cat condo, and Frankie is playing. You guys are gonna have to deal. It's a cute cat.
I knew it was gonna happen. Yeah. So if it gets like this,
the
cat's really excited.
They're really, Sorry, that's what you get when you have cats.
Which is cool. Hellcat A-Go-Go. I mean, I wouldn't expect ferrets running around. But Johnny's been helping us out on the back end, and what we had changed with the production process was to really address a lot of issues and things that we have sort of realized over the past 2 years. There's a lot of things about publishing magazines that become evident, and in a move to be able to do things better, more efficiently, and have better communication across the process from the point you hit submit till the sets actually get published. We've got something in place that we're really proud of as far as how much information that people get. And what's happened as a result of this being in place for a couple months, it seems like it's actually further fed the fire as far as activity. The volume of traffic is phenomenal at this point. We've experienced in the past 3 years that when we get into the fall season, from September on, we actually get busy because there's a lot of special editions that we come out with. Like Halloween is massive. Last year we had 30 plus issues, 30 volumes of Halloween content, thousands of pages of Halloween content. It was actually kind of overwhelming. There were definitely points where, amongst the partner studios, we have a Facebook group that we communicate. And every once in a while, I would get on there and basically say, look, it's very heavy right now. So I'm going to be scarce because I'm so busy getting the work done. And it was a challenge. We made it, but it was a challenge. And the fact became absolutely crystal clear that if that continued, certain things would start to fall through the cracks. So something had to be changed, something had to be done. The new system gave us tools and resources that now allow me to bring in freelancers to help out. We actually have 3 people currently helping, do some of the work. I'm looking to add another, and I'm here because some of the tasks that I do personally, I've been getting Johnny ready to also take over and be able to do some of that stuff too. Have some other hands be able to take the reins if need be. Great way to kind of like look at it. Yeah. So thank you so much for your help. Thanks, Michael. Between you and the other guys and the last few months, if this all wasn't in place, I'd be like, we have a problem. Yeah, we would have an absolute problem.
I mean, the submissions coming in is like astounding. Like how many is coming in?
Last week was 147.
Yeah.
In the course of 7 days, 147 submissions. Yeah. There's actually more coming in than we publish at this point. And that's actually one of the reasons why if you could like rewind the clock and go back in time into the early spring, we had Retro Lovely, of course. We had Venus Cult, which is for alternative things, and our Taboo edition, which was like tasteful nudes with pinup bent. But now we're up to eight publications. There's different titles that really cater to different types of photography. Because the one thing that we noticed was while Retro Lovely started as a pinup publication, the variety of different things. A cat almost came onto view.
Say hello,
Came
Frankie.
onto the top. Having the different titles has been a big benefit as well, because with so many, he's committed. He is committed.
He's going upstairs. I'll be right back.
All right. I'll finish out explaining what happened here. The thing of it is, adding the extra titles was a big deal. It gave us the ability to really fine tune different styles of photography to an appropriate title. And I think one of the reasons we started to get so many submissions that really weren't appropriate for like the pinup community is that the process and the regularity of our publications coming out, it's just something that if you're a content creator, if you're a model or you're a photographer, it's nice to know. It's nice to send in a submission and get a reply right away. I'm very proud of the fact that in the last several months, just about any submission that comes in gets a reply within 24 hours, very often within minutes. I mean, Johnny and I were sitting here yesterday going over some things. The database was open. I get a notification. I'm like, oh, there's a new submission. And I would literally go and look at it immediately, make a determination, accept, decline, what series it was appropriate for. And that person got a reply within minutes. And it's actually so fast that there have been some people have contacted me and asked, do you just like accept everything because I submitted it and I got a reply like literally 30 seconds later? How is that even possible? And it's because this is a full-time publication. We do this full time. If I'm online and they come in, I check them. It's literally, I know how important it is. I've been in your shoes too. As a content creator, I've had things submitted and like a year goes by, and then you finally find out, oh, my work was published. And the communication between the point you hit submit and you found that out is like almost non-existent. So one of the big things that we've been working on is that feedback, knowing that if you make a submission, you're going to hear back virtually, almost definitely within 24 hours at this point, very often within minutes, because it's probably a bad thing, but I'm kind of like obsessive compulsive about it.
No,
I
it's
know
good.
how important it is.
It's so easy to submit. The whole process is so automated and streamlined.
And you have a different perspective too, because with our partner studios, we actually have submission portals for them specifically, so that in his case, as a partner, if he submits like a dozen models, over the course of a week, he can return to his particular portal and look at the status of those submissions. Right. He can see if the models filled out the releases. He can see if we've got it in production, if it's in layout, it's been published.
Right. So my clients have asked like, oh, did that go through? And I look at it, I'm like, yep, you're good to go. I know I can see the signature, and it's. And
honestly, I think it was about like 2 or 3 years ago when we were talking in the group about the problem of like not knowing what was what. Right. You actually made a comment at one point about like, is there a way we can see the submissions themselves?
Right. Yeah.
At that point in time,
that we don't like bother you. Right. You're not blocking your time on that. You can free up your time to do more important things.
To do the work. Yeah.
And exactly.
And the thing of it was, at that point, the resources that I had available to me, that really wasn't possible.
Right.
And then with the services that we use for the submission process, they added some capabilities and you kind of rethought how they presented their data and how you can manipulate it. Like you saw earlier, or actually yesterday, when there's another task that Johnny's going to be doing with me too, that I literally created a new view. I was able to create a new view and tailor it to have the information we needed for that particular task. So he can get in there and
it's quite customizable.
It's with very good precision. There's very little you can't do with it.
Yeah,
so
it's good.
Very, very exciting. Now, apart from that, and maybe we'll like touch back on that again. Let's talk about Hellcat A-Go-Go.
All right.
One of the questions that I had noticed
we got questions
yesterday, and
I didn't think we'd get any.
If you have questions, you can comment here, and I'm not sure. I guess
or
we can see some things over there.
Or ask questions afterwards if you want. I'll answer them.
All right, let's see what we had over here. I know I saw from one of our other partners. There we go. This is from Rick. You might have met Rick at the ball 2 years ago.
I believe I met Rick. Yes. Yeah.
Rick asks, where does the studio name come from?
That was just brainstorming session I had with my very good friend April Livingston. I'm going to shout her out because she is a phenomenal artist. She lives in Alabama, and yeah, maybe I'll make a comment, link to her artist page, and she just helped me out with that. I wanted something that was not stereotypically, nothing that was like, I should say stereotypical, but I don't want like a one word thing that would be so generic. And I wanted something that had a little bit more of a flair to it.
It does. It has a ring. It's recognizable. It's memorable.
Yeah. So we started with like, Hellcat. I'm like, well, that's very generic. I mean, that's a very, generic name. And then she came up with Hellcat. And then I was like, well, if I can build off of that. And I don't know. I was watching some B movie from the 50s, something A-Go-Go. And that's what occurred to me. I'm like, Hellcat A-Go-Go. There we go. We got it. And I thought it had a good ring to it.
Now, just for me as a design kind of person, then how did you arrive at the logo? Because the logo's tight. Like, I'll be honest, there's days where like I want to say to some people,
right,
if you ever redo your logo,
yeah,
ask me for a critique, because sometimes things that we have to publish, certain logos are brutal.
Right.
They fall apart in every application.
Really?
Yours is very good as far as it's
now, how do they fall apart like that?
When things get detailed, okay? So like yours, what's nice about it is there's a lot of big block. There's a bulk.
Okay.
And there's a frame around it.
Right.
I could put that anywhere and it's going to work.
Right.
I could just drop it places, size it, and it's going to work.
Right.
Okay. Other logos, if it's like text-based, like a popular thing for contemporary photographers is like the big, massive signature, right? Yeah. And that's super fine. There's a lot of space in there.
Yeah.
Okay. You have like a background to yours.
Yeah.
There's a lot of space in those. So logos that have the open window to get lost.
Oh, okay.
Can be a bit of a problem.
So you're saying that my logo is the one more self-contained, like there's a background.
It's almost like you have like a background shield,
right?
And your logo's on top,
right?
And it works anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's a great orientation too, because it's not perfectly square, but it's not so wide that it's a problem in application. Like it works everywhere.
Right.
Like you just get on everything, and it's gonna like look good.
Well, I could lie and say that I designed it myself, but I did not.
Okay. That was some stock art that you licensed?
No, I actually hired an artist to make it.
Oh, excellent job though.
And I paid. I thought it was important to get a good logo.
It is. Yeah.
I spent about, well, I'll disclose. I spent $400 on the logo design,
which is a good price.
And I spent a week going back and forth. And the first 4 designs I thought were no good, and I kept working with the artist, and I finally got something that I liked.
Excellent.
That's about it. I thought it was worth the initial investment.
How long ago was that?
That was about 6 years ago.
So amortized. Yeah. It's only been about like $80 a year.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's like I don't quite have the talent to make logos like that, and I didn't want to waste my time trying to come up with something that I knew I couldn't make as good as somebody else, as a talented artist.
Sometimes you know when to draw the lines.
Yeah, and I think as artists, we need to kind of admit that like we need help from other artists.
Absolutely.
We're not. I mean, we have a division of labor in our artistic expressions, and I'm a photographer. I'm not a painter. I'm not this. Artists, we have to like reach out with each other and try to.
I think the other thing too is sometimes we get ourselves into a box.
Yeah.
There's certain things that we just gravitate towards, and we never like leave that the safety of what we know.
Right.
And like I actually know myself, like as a point of reference, like with some of the new magazine titles that we brought on, I consciously looked at like what we've done pre-existing with the others and said, all right, I don't want this just to look like Retro Lovely again with a new name.
Right.
So for instance, in certain products, they just carry the model's name.
Yeah.
Then we have Masquerade. We list everybody that's in the issue.
Right.
I consciously made the decision to try and like have them to be different.
Right.
Sometimes you need somebody from the outside to come in and reassess what you're doing, because
you're
in the middle of the forest. You can't see the trees.
That's like that with everything. Even like with editing, it's sometimes I finish an edit and I'll go back to it 24 hours later before I even show anybody, because I want that fresh eyes to see.
Have you had that experience where you go back to like a session from 2 years ago?
Yes.
And you see photos and you think, my God, that's great. And I kind of like neglected it. Yeah,
absolutely. I've had that. I'm like, why did I skip over that photo?
Why did I miss this?
It's a phenomenal photo.
Sometimes it's time.
That's why I don't delete anything. I keep an archive because of that. Because I think there could be an opportunity where I go back.
There are thousands of dollars of hard drives sitting right over here that everything is backed up. It's
it's my NAS. Yeah, this station. Yeah, it's worth it.
Some other questions, comments that I've seen on here. Now this person's okay. So this, I guess, to all of us.
Yeah.
What causes competitive behavior between beauty queens? Then it says recent rises in popularity, idealistic looks, maybe as a topic. And this is from bitch pudding pops, which I love that
Nice.
Instagram tag.
Nice.
What causes competitive behavior? I think that's human nature.
Yeah.
It's part of survival instinct that's latent in us to be competitive, to get as much as we can get.
Yeah.
If it's food,
yeah.
if it's shelter, if it's fame.
Yeah. And I think we really need to work hard to try to not let it become ugly.
Yes.
I think if it's healthy, and I think if you allow that competitive spirit to try to like make yourself better, you know, if somebody else is pushing you to improve.
Absolutely.
I think that's how you should treat competition. Is that you look at somebody else and like, wow, that was great. You know, I wish I had thought of that. Let me think of something else, and let me just try to like up my game. I'm going to keep upping my game. You know,
and if you feel yourself getting bitter and jealous, then you know you got to kind of work on that. You got to like,
right,
and really ask yourself why that is.
Right.
You know what it is that's causing it. Right. What you can do to not be a slave to that.
Yeah, and like you said before about being stagnant about what you're doing with your art, try not to let that happen. You know, one of the things is like it's not copying, but I'm trying to look at what another photographer does and what their lighting setup is. And part of my, my growth as a photographer is to try to copy that, to understand what they did and what I could do differently or what I could add to that. You know, and I think that's the same thing with all art. You know, just look at what your competition is doing and try to learn and grow from it. Don't be jealous of it. You know, just be like and appreciate it too, man. I mean, like I look at these submissions that come in. I get floored by some of the stuff that you guys are submitting in it. Like these are great sets. I love looking at them.
I talked about that one earlier.
Yeah,
you mentioned that. Like, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and they come in, and I'm like, you might think that this is like, because Mike, you said that it was kind of a rote job. I'm like, it's not, because I'm consuming the photography as I'm looking at them, like as I'm laying them out. To me, I'm like, that's wonderful. I love this. I love that. You know, and I think just let yourself go and enjoy the art of others as well. You know, that's how. You know, I guess I'm kind of a geek about photography. So it's like, I don't just like my stuff. I like everybody's stuff. I like, so. You
know what, too? I forget who it was, but I was reading an article of a photographer, and he actually said that what he does for a lot of inspiration is look at painters.
Yeah.
And he kind of framed it in such a way that he said, you know, they really look at light as much as we would.
Right.
You know, how they interpret it and represent it is sometimes masterful. And he's like, he literally talked about like certain ones and how they treated shadows and this and that, and like, I think a lot of times with like photography, a lot of us get wrapped up with having everything well lit and the color balance perfect.
Right.
But then you could look like an expressionist artist. Guess what? They're consciously skewing the color palette.
Right.
They're consciously exaggerating shadow.
Yeah. The creative expression.
Those are things that can be components too. Yeah.
Well, it's funny with painting too, with the world of painting, where it spills over to photography and the composition.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times it's, you know, you don't really need to reinvent the wheel with photography. In my opinion, a lot of painters have already figured out composition.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's, I think it's also helpful to even study, to go back to stuff that has nothing to do with what you're doing now. If you're a pinup photographer, look at some Renaissance paintings. Like, it's something that applies to all portraiture.
Totally.
You know, look at how they frame their subject, how, you know, that kind of thing. So I think it's best to consume a lot of different art, even if it's not the genre that you're specializing in. Just keep consuming art. I can't stress that enough.
Yeah.
You know, I try to consume everything, you know, and
because we absorb it, we regurgitate it, and it comes back out with our spin on it.
Absolutely.
But we have those resources
Yeah.
because you've seen it.
Yeah, and I think you subconsciously start putting pieces together in your brain that you don't really realize. And
yes.
And all of a sudden something comes out that's unique to your own, and that's because you've consumed a lot of art. You just keep consuming it. Keep
face it. If anyone was born on a deserted island and they handed us a camera,
right?
What would we do with it?
Right.
What would we possibly create? Not having any point of reference of seeing so much that's already grown before.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what else we got on here. Michelle Babs, go live. That's all she said.
Go live. I'm live, Michelle.
Now let's look at some of the story things. There's only one or two in there. Let's see what we got.
This is not alcoholic.
All right. Someone asked this question. Can you repost the same submission you had for a theme that suits the theme? I'm not quite sure what that means. I could take a guess. Are you asking about resubmitting something that we already published that suits another theme that we have? If that's the question, we we sort of prefer not to revisit things that we've already published. And the big reason is, case in point, last year, I think by the end of the year, we had released 232 volumes of content. It was 15,000 pages. We're about to break that record like in the next week. We barely can get to all the new content that's submitted to us. To revisit something that's already been published just doesn't make sense at this point in time. I wish it was different. I wish, if it was something that so perfectly fit like a special theme.
Why retread old ground when there's so much more new stuff coming in?
It's just a matter of resources. Right. We are literally struggling to keep up with new content. So to devote time and energy to something that we've already, captured, it just doesn't make sense. So unfortunately, I'd have to say not a great idea there. And it's just because we're so like overwhelmed. A big thing of it is like when I talked earlier about being able to reply to your submissions immediately. That's very important. And I think everybody would agree that it's something that's like very important to them. Why get wrapped up in other things that take away from that? If we we have to like manage the time so that the very important things can happen. I talk about like how quickly we can answer submissions. If anybody has ever sent us an email and waited days for a reply or never gotten one, it's because of the volume. And I would have to say, just as a point of reference, on the website, there's a contact form. If you really need to reach us, there's a question that needs an answer, use the contact form because that's structured. We monitor it. We pay attention to it. Our email's a hot mess. People just think, I'm going to send them 6,000 photos, or I'm going to send them a proposal because I want to do a special edition that suits me. It's a hot mess of things coming into us that we literally can't answer every one. And then if we did, we would not be able to reply to the submissions within 24 hours. We wouldn't be able to get out 15,000 pages of content in a year. We have to make the decision with some things that say, we just can't spend the time on that question. It's something that is possibly already answered on the website or really isn't relevant. We kind of have to pick our battles when it comes to cyber contact because it could crush you. I mean, we're literally at that point where just taking care of it all would shut things down.
Well, I was going to add too, why not take that opportunity to create new content for your studio? I hope the whole point of it is to have fun, and shooting new content should be fun.
Absolutely.
So use that excuse to be like, hey, there's a special thing coming up. Let's get it together. Let's get that, put a shoot together. That's why I would hope to see just continuing to create new content,
Now this is a question I have seen probably a million times. Where should an aspiring pinup start?
Wow, that's a tough question.
I'll tell you what, a lot of times when I hear a question, I have questions of my own.
Yeah.
What does a pinup mean to you? What do you think it is? What about it appeals to you? Do you think it's a possible career? Is it something that's fun? That's the problem with saying pinup. Well, how would you define it?
Well, I mean, interesting you say career or fun. I would say it always has to be fun, even if it's your career. Like, just make sure you're having fun, please. I think that's
100%.
If you're not having fun, you have to reassess why are you doing what you're doing. Like,
and being around this for like the last 11 years and knowing what I know, I would caution any model. If you think about pinup modeling and the word career factors into it, you really, really, really got to like do some research and get get educated, I would say, because I don't want to sound like somebody that's going to tell you that Santa Claus doesn't exist. But the number of models who have a career modeling in pinup, I could probably count on two hands. And if I reached out to them right now and talked about dollars and cents and finances and what their life is like as a result of their career and its ability to support them, being a bagger at a supermarket is probably as lucrative. It's just literally not a great career path as far as, something to do as a vocation.
So going back to your original question, what does it mean to you? And, and I think that if it means that you want to be the absolute top model, then, that's going to be extremely difficult. But if it means to you something that is, that enriches your life and makes it fun for yourself, then that I would always encourage that. If you find it enriching and you please do it. Please, that's
And I'll bet money I can speak for Johnny a little bit, because I've had a studio as well, and knowing clients that we've had mutually, the biggest thing that I think for more recent on the studio side of things with pinup, the thing that's like the best about it, the best thing about it is how it can empower you to feel confident. Okay, I've had countless clients come to me who were absolutely petrified of doing like a photo shoot. They didn't feel good enough. They didn't feel worthy. They didn't feel deserving of it. And we live in a society that like has cookie cutter depictions of what beauty is or what's cool, right? And pinup is great because there is a wide variety of looks, of styles. I mean, women of just about any age, body type.
I would use the word democratic. I think it's the most democratic style of portraiture. Yeah, I think it's the most accepting.
And I'll even go one step further. I just said women, but we've had transgendered models that have been featured.
Yeah,
so I mean, it's so open, and the audience is also supportive.
Yeah,
that's the thing that's phenomenal about it. So pinup can be very liberating as far as giving you that confidence that society has stripped away otherwise. Yeah. And I know I've countless times in the studio, women have transformed because of it.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, and I guarantee you, if you haven't done a pinup shoot before and you start, I mean, you might feel a little bit of nervousness for the first like 5 minutes, but I almost every single time I shoot a newcomer, after fight that nervousness melts away and people have fun, you know. And it's important to have a good photographer that will have fun with you, you know. I mean, my thing is kind of like, you know, I'm not going to be barking orders. I'm not going to be, you know,
no,
it's
that's
like,
wrong.
There's nothing. Yeah, right. Yeah. That's wrong. Don't do it. It's like there's nothing wrong. It's like this is all subjective. And
let's have fun. Let's find the poses.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. It's like, you know, as a photo session goes on, we stumble across things that will look good. You know, and there's a little bit of a build up, a little bit of a learning curve that happens. You know, at any kind of photo shoot, even with somebody who's actually very well seasoned. Even that, it's like I have to kind of figure out after, you know, about 5-10 minutes to figure out like, okay, yeah, these are the poses that work the best. You know, these are the expressions that work the best, I think. And that's highly dependent on your personality too, right? I think, you know, I'm a big thing about expressions. You know, it's like, you know, I even advise people, if you want to get the most out of your pictures, like practice expressions in the mirror. And I know that would sound in the mirror.
Yeah. Whoa.
I know that would sound in the mirror.
Yeah. Whoa. Sorry. I want to monitor this to see if it was okay.
So you might feel silly doing that, but you learn like what your personality is. And I think that's also important too. Like, what is your personality? And it's important that you use expressions that fit your personality. Like I have some models who are, you know, they're more of the cheesecake, jovial kind of like, you know, expressions. So it's like that's their personality, and they look good with those expressions because it fits them, and they feel comfortable doing those expressions. I have other models that are more sultry, and they want to do like that, you know, those kind of expressions, and that fits more, that fits, you know, more comfortable for them. And I think it's very important to you practice in the mirror and figure out what you feel good about.
I kind of want to add something right there, because as you were just talking, I heard you say your several times. And I like hearing that, because I think it's important, because maybe you have too. I've had some clients where they do the shoot, and in pretty short order, you realize that they're doing it, but they're also doing it for somebody else, a significant other, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, their husbands. Yeah. And sometimes there's like, I sense a bit of like pressure, like they feel like a bit of a pressure for what sort of thing they should be doing.
Yeah.
And I think what Johnny just said is very important, that it should always be what you want, not what somebody else wants. Okay. So if like, you know, you're going to do it and you have your boyfriend and like they're suggesting certain things, don't let anybody box you into a corner. Don't let somebody tell you it should be this or it should be that. You have to be excited about it. It has to be what you want.
If you don't want to do it and somebody's pressuring you to do it, you're not going to have a good time. And you're not going to, you know, you have to want to do it.
Actually, there's a question for you there.
Yeah.
So when you shoot in your studio, you have your stylist on hand. So from a standpoint of like, you know, we're both men, and sometimes for women that can be like a psychological block as far as working with. But you typically have your makeup and hairstylist like right around.
Oh yeah.
Now, I know because we talked about one client in particular, as far as like if somebody brings like a significant other, what's your policy as far as like an escort or this or that? What's the deal there?
Totally fine. I encourage it. Please bring us. In fact, I think that's fun, right? I mean, you bring your significant other. I mean,
I love when they bring like a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Because I can't tell you how many times I've gotten like a new client because the girlfriend sees the fun.
A warning.
It's like, I got to do that.
I would say a warning. If you bring your significant other, I will draft them and I will make them my assistant.
Yeah, I've done that.
And I think that's fun because it's for selfish reasons and for selfless reasons. I mean, selfless reasons because I think you guys are gonna have more fun. Selfish reasons because like I use the help.
If you feel comfortable, help. Now, one thing I will say, I was on a shoot once, and this is something that maybe you ladies, as you book a session with whoever it is, and you do bring a significant other along, something to keep in mind. And I noticed this one time, and it was really kind of very telling for me. On location doing a shoot, model I shot before was there with her husband, and he's extremely supportive. But he almost felt like one of those, what do they call them, like the helicopter parent, where his involvement was possibly too significant. That what was really interesting was there was one point where she needed a different piece of wardrobe, and she asked him to go get it. And where we were shooting, it was an airport hangar. He had to go walk like 10 minutes to get this thing. Yeah. So he's gone for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
In his absence, her personality changed.
Interesting.
And her poses and everything else. I think while he was present, she was preoccupied by the fact that he was present. Okay. Listening to his thoughts and suggestions. Now, I do like having somebody around that you're comfortable with, but it is possible. This is one time out of 100. But it is possible that if you feel preoccupied with the fact that they're there, maybe ask them to go around the corner. Okay. They're still in the room. They're still nearby. There's nothing, you're still in a safe environment, but you're also not worried about what they think at that moment. If you get preoccupied with that, it could perhaps affect your poses and your ability to.
Or maybe if that is your situation, if you bring a best friend instead of a significant other, maybe that would be better. And then you don't feel that pressure to have the significant other that you're, right. Whatever kind of psychology is between that. Maybe a best friend's better. It kind of depends on you though. I mean, I've never really had that issue at all.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So,
well, and even in this case, it wasn't like it was bad, but I absolutely noticed.
You noticed a difference.
There was an improvement. Watching.
That's what I mean. I haven't noticed really anything like that. Yeah. But yeah, I think which is interesting. You bring up because I offer private sessions and group sessions, and I've kind of noticed that there's some people will prefer one or the other, and some people like the group sessions because they like the social ability of the camaraderie. And
I've had people make friendships in my place.
Yeah,
absolutely. I did a shoot one day. It was on a weekend, and this woman who flew in from Texas was in the makeup and hair area, and a girl who was there from New York City, like 3 hours from where my studio was. They're looking at each other, and the one said, "I know you," and she's like, "Do you do marathon running?" And she said, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh my God, you were at that one race I ran in Utah."
Oh, nice.
And here they are from divergent parts of the country, and you have friendships actually develop. So the group shoots are kind of cool for that sometimes. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's funny actually. It's a small world, right? We had I had a client here and brought a boyfriend who was in a very popular band and a very popular ska band. I don't know if I should name names or anything like that. So I'll just I'll leave it generic. But and I was like, oh, I think he brought his instrument with him, and I said, oh, what kind of music do you play? He was like, I play ska. And I was like, oh, do you know so and so? Because I have a hair and makeup artist who is in a ska band, and he's like, yes, I'm producing their next record. Okay, and I was like, floored, like, whoa, it's a small world. So I was texting, like, I was like, hey, your buddy, so and so's here. And, so yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that it's interesting that some people they want that group session, they want the whole group of friends, and that's kind of what, and like you said, you probably already said that, but the friendships are forged from those group sessions, and they're great. Yeah. But some people are, and I totally get it. They feel uncomfortable having a lot of strangers around, so they haven't befriended yet, and they want the private session. So that's why I'm kind of moving towards offering both.
Totally.
So,
yeah. And it can go both ways. I mean, sometimes I've seen like a newcomer love supportive women around them.
Yes.
But then there are some that are still so self-conscious that any kind of outside eyes. Right. Until they get their groove. Yeah. They need that privacy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
Yeah. So I think it's important to find out what you want. And you might try maybe a session with either a private session or group session, and you figure out what you like. Yeah.
And just to back up a little bit, we talked about where the name came from. How long have you actually been doing this?
Pinup photography
Yeah.
or photography in general?
Okay, photography in general, and then pinup photography.
I've been doing photography for about 8 years. Pinup photography about 6.
So now, photography for 8 years, does that mean you've totally been weaned on digital?
I'm totally digital. I've never experienced.
Okay.
I've never had any experience with film.
You're not ancient like me
Yeah.
and had to make your own film. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No. I wouldn't even know where to begin with film.
See, that's funny too. Sometimes, like in Photoshop, if I'm
Yeah.
talking to somebody who's like young,
Yeah.
and I'll say what the tools are,
Yeah.
and I'll say
which come from the darkroom.
I used to use an actual dodging device when
Right.
making a print.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like the mask. I made physical masks.
Yeah.
okay?
So I did get some professional instruction. I went to in informal school. It wasn't like accredited college or anything, but so yeah, we did go over that. But I always find that interesting that the tools in Photoshop come from the darkroom.
yeah,
Dodging and burning and
Yeah.
you know.
I hate to sound bitter, but like when you think about what you used to have to do,
Yeah.
and the tools and the power that are like in front of us right now in the box,
Yeah.
is just staggering.
Yeah, but you know what? My philosophy on that is that those tools will still not teach you composition.
No, absolutely not.
You know, the phones that we have on our cameras now, they take phenomenal pictures. I mean, they do. And I hear photographers get disgruntled and like, you know,
Well, see, I
like,
think it's important
like,
distinction.
you know, it's like they're driving us out of a career, and it's like no, because at the end of the day, no offense to anybody who's taking snapshots with your camera, you are taking snapshots with your camera. You're not composing a scene, you know. And I think that's always going to be the art, you know, the art that has to come in.
Absolutely.
You know,
yeah. Well, we did that entire issue of cell phone photos.
Yeah,
and some of them were brilliant.
Right.
But some of them were snapshots.
Yeah, wasn't there like a guy did a whole movie on his iPhone? Something like that, right?
There's been documentaries.
And it was
yeah.
a phenomenal movie, I think. Or I didn't watch it, but it was like beautifully shot, and it was all on his iPhone.
Yeah.
But the point is that like, who cares about the tech? It was his composition. It was the way that the artist was framing everything, you know. So.
Well, it's like if you think about it, if you go back 50 years, if you think about like any music that was recorded prior to like the digital age or photography,
right?
There's brilliant works of art that was done with effectively primitive tools,
right?
Period.
Right.
Period.
Yeah, and I think sometimes and I would like the photography community not to be Luddites about the technology. Like, don't let that get you down, because that's not what the art is about. It's not about the tech. If there's things about the old tech that was holding you back, and that's the thing, that it's like, no, the tech was restricting your ability to artistically express yourself. And I think that tech getting better is making it easier for you to express yourself the way that you want to. It's giving you more control over your art, and
it's more capable for
and
range.
I really think it's important that we look at it that way. It's like, no, it's giving you more control.
Well,
over
it's,
what you want to do.
when you say that, like, it's kind of interesting. Like, you probably don't see it with what you're doing with the layouts right now, but sometimes if I'm in the submissions and I get into the folders with the files, I'll look at the metadata, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know 10 years ago when I was working on the publication, I mean, I'll put it this way. It literally made me get a different camera. Okay. So back in 2010.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah.
I was shooting an Nikon. I had a D700 and nice big full frame, big pixels, you know, great low light performance, working on the magazine. And as submissions would come in, I'd see like work that had a quality to it that I'd go, wow, there's something about that looks fantastic.
Right.
And I started to notice, like, I had a window of time where if somebody would ask me, like, what camera would you recommend? There were certain ones that I would gravitate toward based on the sampling
of what
I saw.
Yeah.
There were certain bodies that were just excellent.
Right.
A Canon 40D. It was only 8 megapixels, but there's something about that one. There's some amazing work created on that thing. The D2X from Nikon, of course, the D700 was actually good. But I started to see a bunch of, like, when Canon had their 5D2, which was 20-ish megapixels. And I started to see a number of photographers submitting work on that camera. And I could do like 2-page spreads with those, and they were gorgeous. Right?
Yeah, that's why I like my Sony 7R3, which is a 42
you get
megapixel
a certain
sensor,
size,
and you can blow that thing up huge.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
So the thing of it is, it's like, what's interesting is, to this day, there are certain well-known photographers that I'll look at their files. They're still using cameras from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
They're not like trapped into this, I got to get a medium format, or I got to get the latest thing. What was a great tool then is still a great tool today.
And the tech can trip us up sometimes with that. Sometimes we can get too obsessed with our gear, and that's not the whole point of this.
Well, like,
right?
megapixels is a great example.
Yeah.
I was shooting some like event photography, and I had a camera that was like, I think, a 6 megapixel camera at the time, an APS sensor, and the company came out with a new one with 8 megapixels. I'm like, oh my God, 2 more megapixels. I need this body, right? So I get it.
Yeah.
And guess what? Its low light performance went backwards.
It was noisy.
It was noisier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the always.
I found myself wishing for the.
That was always a drawback,
Yeah.
right? When they kept adding more
Right.
megapixels, it was like the camera got noisier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's important not to get obsessed with the gear too. You know, I sometimes people will ask me like where your camera is. You know, like, oh, that's a great picture. What's your camera? The camera had nothing to do with it. You know,
Right.
I mean, I can't say it had nothing to do with it. Okay, but I'm saying it's not.
There's a baseline. Of
Don't obsess over the gear. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't actually obsess over the glass that you get. You know.
Luna X Mars asked us a question, but you already answered it.
Okay.
Oh, actually, we did. What got you into photography? What drew you in?
Okay, so this was not an intentional endeavor into photography. It was kind of accidental. Basically, about 9 years ago, I was going to be traveling to Hong Kong, and it was my first trip to anywhere in the Asian continent. And I was absolutely, it was a dream for me to go to Hong Kong since I was a teenager. You know, I grew up with a lot of Hong Kong cinema, and I'm like, I got to go to Hong Kong. I really want to go to Hong Kong, you know. And I finally had the financial ability to do that. And you know, I always enjoyed photography, but I didn't know anything about it at all. And I was like, well, I don't want to bring just a point and click camera. I want to bring something nice. So I bought a Sony mirrorless camera, and it had all the, you know, the manual settings that you have available to it. And I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing with this thing, none at all. And so then I took that with me on the trip, and you know, I shot everything in auto, you know, like anybody would, because they don't know how to use it, and that was my situation.
That's the way to do it. Yeah.
And I came back and I was like, you know what, I want to take some, you know, and I came back and there's some shots that I liked, but I was like, yeah, but I know I'm not making use of this camera. I know that, like, I went out to buy this expensive camera because I wanted to have like really good travel photos, and so then I started taking classes in New York. You know, I took the train from New Haven. I drive to New Haven, take the trains into New York, and and the school is actually, it's a really great school. I don't know if they're still offering instructions. It's called Photo Manhattan. So if anybody who is thinking about getting into photography, I recommend them. It's an informal kind of like education. It's not an accredited university or anything like that, but you can learn. It's very useful, very useful. I started taking classes, and we were given assignments on what to do, what kind of pictures to take with our assignment. And I absolutely fell in love with it. And I also attended some National Geographic photography seminars that were offered by National Geographic photographers. And that, like, the more and more I started doing that kind of thing, where I was attending seminars, going to classes, I was like, I got the bug. I totally got the bug. And I did a couple of pictures that I thought were just like, these are my best pictures I've ever taken, you know? And yeah, that's how I got into it. And it wasn't an intentional, like, I want to get into photography. It just basically was like, you know,
it evolved.
It evolved into it.
Yeah. You had a need, you had a desire.
Yeah, it was more of just like, I just want some nice photos for my vacation, and it turned into, like, you know, an obsession. Yeah.
Okay, so to take that one step further, that sets the stage for that. At what point did it shift into photographing people and then pinup? Like, what point?
Okay.
What happened? What was the transition?
So part of it was I really wanted to monetize what I was doing, you know, because I loved it so much, and I wanted to, basically, you know, turn into a career, you know. And so I started off with like doing a lot of landscape photos, which I still love doing. Wildlife, like photography, that kind of thing. But then I kind of came to the realization that, like, I was like, you know, and I really enjoyed portraiture too. And well, actually, funny, I'll back up a little bit. So with portraiture, I was getting in, what we had as assignments in our classes was to actually stop people on the street and ask them if you can take a portrait of them.
Oh my God.
And have a strict conversation with them. It's I forgot that New York, you know, the New York photographer that's very famous for that. Something of New York, people of New York or something like that, right? And
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Hugely famous. And so that's what we were kind of assigned to try to do that. And so I was kind of like I enjoy portraiture, man. That's nerve-wracking, and I'm not suggesting you go do that, because it's like, but you know, believe it or not, like if you go do that, like 90% of the people are like, oh yeah, you know, basically tell them like, hey, I'm a student photographer, I'm just trying to practice. Can I take a few shots of you, you know, today? Make sure you pick out somebody who's not like, they don't look like they're distracted and busy, you know, that kind of thing. So anyways, okay, long story short, I know
I'm the same
I
one.
get over. I get it. Yeah.
I can't use.
I go over
I can't.
stupid stories. Anyway, so I enjoy portraiture as well, but I came to the realization that I really would, like, I really want to monetize this. If I want to monetize photography, I need to do more portraiture. And then, so I kind of like, reached out to find people to shoot with, models, and that's a challenge in and of itself. And I went onto like Model Mayhem.
Model Mayhem.
Yeah,
Oh
Model
God.
Mayhem, which like it's like nobody goes on there anymore.
Model Mayhem.
And then I reached out to some local artists, and we did some portraiture. And one local artist had done pinup photos, and I had always been a fan, like 20 years prior to with pinup. And I was like, man, yeah, I love pinup. And
it was good timing because it was coming back.
Yeah, I looked at those. I'm like, and she had them on the wall. I'm like, I want to do that. Can we try doing that? Can we find some models to try to do that? And that's it.
Nice.
That's it. That's went from there. Yeah.
And that's the past 6 years.
About 6 years ago, I think it was. I don't know. When you get to 45, your memory starts to go. So I think
Try 55.
Yeah. So I think it was about 6 years.
You get more grays.
Yeah.
Gravity fights you.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Now, you predominantly shoot out of here, but you also go on location. Like I know you've had Viva East, you've done Viva Las Vegas.
Yep. And in fact, I'm going back to Viva East at the end of September, I believe it is. So, and yeah.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
And that's like right in your backyard. So that's like an easy one.
Yeah. It's
compared to Las Vegas.
hour and a half drive. But
yes, that's cake.
Yeah.
That's cake.
Yeah.
Now, we were talking a couple of weeks ago, since you've actually, you've done photography for quite a while. It has been part of your profession, but it has not been your profession full time.
Right.
And it recently has become full time.
Yes.
And I know we talked about, your ambition to get on the road even further, to actually get out into like, sort of tour and travel into other states.
Yeah.
So as far as it goes, do you have like a hard timeline on that? Do you have a plan?
My plan is to invest in a moving cargo van, and probably in the spring of next year, and bring sets with me, travel with my sets. And are you going to network with makeup artists in those areas? Yeah, I'm going to try to do that. And,
so if you're a makeup artist anywhere in the country, talk to Johnny.
Yeah.
He's going to be coming your way.
So like my first go at it might be East Coast. I drive down to Florida and hit some stops on the way back, that kind of thing. Right. And we'll see how that goes. I don't think I would be gone for like months at a time. My family wouldn't like that. So more like short trips, short regional trips. I might eventually do a West Coast trip, or where I might just book it to the West Coast and then book back, and not like necessarily make a bunch of stops in the middle.
Right.
Just because of time. Like I can't really be away from the house for that long.
Yeah.
I can't.
You got those cats to worry about.
I got cats to worry about. Yeah. But yeah, and these sets that I put time and money into it, I feel like there's an opportunity for lots of people to shoot on it.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, and I've learned a lot from building these sets too. I've learned what kind of materials work the best and which ones don't. It's been a long process.
It's almost like a book could be written about that alone.
Yeah, I know, man.
There's no one resource of like how to do all that stuff.
No,
that's an art form in itself.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not a carpenter. I just,
Even when I got here, I was like walking around, I'm like, so where's the living room with the fireplace? Like, it's behind that wall.
Right there.
Yeah. I totally get it. I totally get it.
I'm not afraid to use a circular saw or a jigsaw, and I haven't cut any fingers off yet. So, but yeah. Well, thankfully, I'm very safety conscious.
Very.
Insanely so. My wife tells me too much. But
he drove me to some places to eat, which I appreciate, getting some good food in near Mystic, or in Mystic and near Mystic. Yeah. But he's very safe in the car, meaning I was afraid the places were going to close till we got there. Very safe.
I'm very much I'm very much an old man when I drive. I drive at the speed limit or below.
I don't know if you know.
I'm sorry, guys.
We were pulling out of the parking lot yesterday. Yeah. There was like this couple in a car trying to get in, and I guess get his spot. And like, I don't know, but I kind of looked at the woman that was driving, and like, she was like ready for him to be out of that space. Like, it was just like, come on already. I'm
looking back over here and make sure I don't hit anybody. I don't know. That's just my personality. I'm very
which is good.
Yeah,
which is good.
Yeah.
So on other fronts, I know we were talking, you got to get on the ball with Halloween because it's a big one for you in general.
I'm sorry, I haven't got anything packaged together yet. I will, but it's like so many other things that are coming at me all at once, and I'm trying.
Is there anything else like on your radar in the future that you want to do that might be worth talking about now? Like, is there something that you like kind of got like a
you can pretty much guarantee my studio is going to always do Halloween, Christmas, and Valentine's.
Sure.
Yeah, we're always going to be doing those because yeah, they're just very popular, and I love them too. I love doing them too. So
yeah, Halloween's huge. I mean, Halloween should just be like a month.
Yeah,
it's not just the 31st.
Yeah,
October is Halloween.
Yeah, it's a shame it's only one day of the year, right?
Well,
we need more Halloweens.
I'm glad that like you go to stores now and you see Halloween shit.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's like excellent.
Oh yeah,
it is getting into October. You know, August, September is going to be here. September, May will be Halloween too.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
which is cool. As far as the studio, is there anything else you want to add as far as your process, as far as maybe some of the makeup artists that you work with? I know you have somebody newer that you've been working with.
Yeah,
a great job.
I'll give a shout out to Bombshell Babs, who's been doing a lot of hair and makeup work for us. She is the president of the New England Luscious Ladies chapter. And
by the way,
she's wonderful.
Luna mentioned, oh my God, Model Mayhem. Yeah. Well, you know, interestingly, the very first issues of Retro Lovely, most of the artists that I contacted was through Model Mayhem.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
Right.
You know, it's just
like, does anybody go on there anymore?
I haven't been on there in a bazillion years.
Yeah.
I can't. It must be like, you know, foreign people.
Yeah.
Because right. I haven't heard it in months and months and months.
Yeah. Just that the all social media has been taken over by Instagram, Facebook, and well, I don't know, Twitter,
TikTok.
Yeah, TikTok. Yeah.
I don't get Twitter. Well, I get TikTok, but like it's hard for like what we do to like transition to that success.
Yeah.
Because we're a very static sort of medium.
Right.
TikTok is about motion and video.
It is. Yeah.
Singular personalities.
Right.
You know, that's the thing that works best there.
And the thing with social media for photography in general, we used to have like really great social media sites like Flickr or like 500px, right? Is that saying it right?
Yeah.
That would only display your photos in the highest resolution.
Oh my God!
But now we're stuck with Instagram. We're stuck with like Facebook.
Yeah.
And our pictures are not being displayed the way they should be displayed. But you know, everyone's looking on their phone anyway. So
well, the thing is, like we talked about like data storage.
Yeah.
And how like YouTube is almost bankrupted by hosting so many millions of cat videos.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And what a lot of people don't realize, like you get on like right now, we're using our service for free. Like sure, they'll maybe package an ad on there, but there's a lot of tech and development and data storage that's goes into just storing this very video that's a couple minutes here.
Yeah.
And they've got millions and millions of files.
Yeah.
That they're holding on to. Like it'll be there forever, effectively.
I mean, I can't say for certain. I've heard that they just don't make money on the platform, and I don't know if they're just it's a long game for them.
Right.
To try to offer some type of like streaming, like a monetized streaming service.
Well, they do say more people watch videos on YouTube than view major network productions.
Right.
So their trick now is to try and monetize it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So hopefully they can get there. But, I mean, I say hopefully, but the reason that this is relevant when we talk about Instagram or Facebook and talk about photos in high resolution, Facebook and Instagram have a similar battle. Their profitability is based on them not spending money on people, not spending money on data storage. And one way to cut down on data storage is to take the images that we upload and squeeze the bejesus out of them and compress them so that the amazing, crisp, brilliant image that we see, that we upload, they squeeze it as much as possible to reduce file size so that precious and expensive data storage isn't as taxed. And what it does is it helps break up and destroy the images. There's lots of things that I'll post and I'll go, God, it looks nothing like that.
Yeah, almost like I've been editing only in, I think I'm editing in 32-bit now, just because I know everything gets downgraded.
You may as well start there.
So I start at the highest possible like resolution I can start with.
Yeah. They do say there's a strategy with like Instagram. Like if you want the best possible results, there are certain pixel dimensions to target.
Oh yeah, I've heard that too.
That helps.
That helps like optimize the
like they like 20 but 2080 by 2080 is one of them that I recall. And it's worth like looking at like because I know they change it. It's changed over time. But if you find those sizes that they prefer, that's a sweet spot.
Right.
It has the best chance of not losing as much.
Right. Their compression software.
Yeah.
Displays it the best.
If you send them an image at 10,000 pixels by 10,000 pixels, they're going to squash it. You know,
I always wonder like why don't they just optimize it for you and discard the high res copy and just keep the I never understand that. I never understood that. Like, just do the work. You have that's what a computer is for.
Yeah, that would be good. That would be good.
Yeah, just optimize it for us, and discard the high res copy and keep it like the the optimized copy. Yeah.
And the real shame of it is because I think sometimes like if there was
I guess there's some processing involved, so maybe they don't want that takes resources. They probably don't want to do that. Yeah. I just realized. So that's why they don't want to do it. Yeah.
They don't have human beings that can like talk to you about anything.
Yeah.
Not and appease stockholders at the same time.
Yeah.
And let the executives get fat bonuses. I digress. Sorry. Yeah, I wish people were like had enough foresight that we could actually come together and create like a platform that had some tiered like an actual membership thing.
Yeah.
Or, like what YouTube is trying to do. Have something that like, okay, here it is, it's free, use it, knock yourself out.
Right.
But we have to do this and this to be cost effective. But then we also have a level that if you're a professional user, for X amount a month, you can email us and talk to us about a problem you might have.
I would love Instagram to do that, just to give something for a photographer's account that we can spend like 10.
Don't squeeze my photos as much.
Yeah, like
don't automatically assume
and you pay for it.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, I would love that because
I would too,
I'm also I've gotten the habit to make sure all of my vertical images can be a 5:10 aspect ratio.
Orientation,
like Instagram forced me into that, because it's such a bummer when you do a
great composition, but
and then you load up an Instagram and it's got the white bars on the sides, and it's like
and that's actually kind of an extension of the conversations we've had many times as far as photographers who typically compose for their cameras and have been to have been instructed or have looked at resources that preach fill the frame. Well, that presents a problem when it comes to like the magazine. Magazine has the same exact problem that Instagram does with regards to it's a different aspect ratio than the cameras typically tend to be. Like a smartphone camera, and even the smartphone orientation on this is about 2 to 3. So every 2 units of measure, 3 this way. The magazines are like an old school 4:5 medium format cameras. If you had a medium format camera, you could shoot to your heart's content and get the composition right with what you see in the viewfinder. It's going to work like a magazine cover or as a beautiful magazine spread.
It's probably the most popular vertical print for any kind of vertical.
It's a pleasing ratio to the human mind.
That's probably even from Renaissance paintings. I'm sure that that particular like canvas ratio was like what they preferred to use.
Absolutely.
I know even for media newsprint, like the portraiture, they always want the 4:5.
Well, it's kind of like what I said about your logo.
Yeah,
it's flexible. Because you could need it in a vertical space or horizontal space.
Yeah.
It's still not going to fall apart. It's still going to work.
Right.
And it's not going to be like, oh my God, there's a bunch of space around this.
Right.
It'll work just about anywhere you need it to work.
Yeah.
Short of being square.
Right.
Which is a tough thing too. But it's one thing that I wish photographers would like think about more because when you fill the frame, you limit yourself. You limit yourself as far as like how you can actually use a great image. You might box yourself into a corner or crop yourself into a corner, I like to say.
Yeah, and especially with my camera, and it's not just my camera, but all the cameras coming out now. Like with my Sony E7R3, with the high resolution that it is, why not just shoot wide and crop later? And that's been like there's so many photographers that be like, oh, why vapors? You're gonna crop your image?
Yes.
You're losing pixels. Like I have a ton to spare.
Exactly. That's the thing that kills me, because if you look at like
I'm not making everything into a billboard.
Right.
Like it's like
that's the argument. Like, when you see like some new camera comes out with so many pixels, and then somebody says, "Why do you need 100 megapixels?" Well, so we can crop later.
Yeah.
Then you don't.
It's like
then you're like, but then you don't want to give up those precious pixels.
Right. It's like because there are applications where I need to get it into a certain ratio, and I can't do it otherwise. I have to crop it to this because my sensor is cropped to 4:6.
Right. And then, like, say for print, you take a great picture. I don't think I have anything on here that's worth calling up. Well, you know what? This is an old 2-page spread from a magazine, and it doesn't quite fill the frame. Okay, so there's some space. The thing of it is, if you take a photo with like a modern camera or even your cell phone, and you look at it on the screen shows you absolutely everything on the image file. Okay, with print, however, you give us an image and we put it in a layout. Well, what happens is this: you get the magazine, and there's the beautiful 2-page spread, and your image fills off the edge of the paper. Here's the thing: the printers can't just take the page exactly at that size and print your image right to the edge, and that's it. What they have to do is we have to design it to go outside the board, basically an area they call bleed. There's a bleed and trim area, and it extends beyond, and they print on a larger size piece of paper. Then they assemble the magazine and they cut it down to size so that it's perfect and the images all can extend to the edge of the page. They don't print to the other page. They print a bigger one and they cut it down. So if your image, if you have a model and I showed you one earlier, killer image, I'm trying to get it to be a cover. The model's hand is right on the edge of the image. And when I put it in layout, I know it's going to go to the printer, they're going to trim it, and you're going to see this great photo on the cover with the model's hand cut off in a very uncomfortable way. It's going to look distracting. Had the photographer just pulled back a tiny bit, captured a bit more, cropped after the fact, it'd be a done deal. The girl would have a cover right now.
So many lost opportunities from that, just from
dozens a month.
Yeah, and it's certainly counterintuitive to what we're constantly being taught by in photography.
Yeah.
Like fill the frame, fill the frame, fill the frame. Don't fill the frame.
No.
Don't. I mean,
almost fill the frame.
Not if you want it in print. I mean, if you don't care about print,
right?
You're just gonna be posting it on or whatever. If you're just gonna be posting a print for your home or for somebody else's home, and you can print it to whatever aspect ratio you want, right? But if you want it, we have restrictions with a magazine. We're bound by these ratios.
It's like posting something on Instagram when it was only square.
Yeah,
that was that. Yeah, that was that. Yeah.
What I would give for that suggestion you have for photographers' account to be able to just post whatever ratio I want, whatever Yeah. Oh my God! Like it's like, why are you restricting this?
It doesn't need to be that way.
Yeah. Because sometimes I would like to. I'll give people options when I give them their photos back. I'll give multiple different kinds of crops.
It's interesting because what I do a lot of times when I give finished files to a model, a client, I actually shoot wider because of all the things I've had to endure. Yeah. And I tell them up front, look, I shoot a bit wider so that you can decide if you want to make a 5x7 print, it's going to work easy. Yeah. Right. If you want an 8x10, it's going to work easy. Yeah. If you want a 6x12, it's going to work easy. Yeah. So because I have enough information in the file that you can do whatever you want as far as your final output. Right.
Yeah. I try to pick popular print crops, for people.
Well, it's interesting. If you go, so 4x5 would be tough to do a 2 to 3 again. It would be tough to go backward. Right. But if let's say you treated the actual sensor.
If you have a 4x5, you can bring that down to 2x3 if you have enough information on the sides.
If you did.
Yeah, if you have enough information on the sides.
Right. If you fill the frame, you'd be screwed.
Then you're screwed. Yeah.
So don't fill the frame.
Yeah.
Don't fill the frame.
Yeah, I mean, why pigeonhole yourself into something that you can't
You know what? In fact, I'll tell you what. That whole statement is so popular. I think I could probably start a movement where I had T-shirts. I said, don't fill the frame.
Don't fill the frame.
Go against the current and get some traction because who is this asshole? Who's this guy going against all this conventional wisdom?
Right. I guess that was just a product of the
getting people trained to do composition.
Yeah, I suppose that was the. Yeah, composition, right. Yeah, you're right. I go back to Renaissance painting again. You wouldn't have a big wide, you wouldn't paint your Renaissance painting portraiture with a huge
right.
Because it's because you're not cropping in later, right? So I guess maybe that's where it comes from, but it's Right.
So in the early days of digital, it kind of made sense too, because I do recall when I was the graphic artist for a security company, and I was there.
But we didn't have a lot of resolution to spare.
Well, here's the thing: I had a 3 megapixel camera that cost me $3,000. I bought it.
Yeah,
and I was tasked to go to different sites that we had for our services, and we had a monthly newsletter that we put out. There's annual reports. There's all kinds of collateral that we're producing.
Yeah,
and rather than hire photographers, I had the camera. I was going out in the field. Sometimes I would go out of state to get a site that we're going to do. Right. And I would shoot these things. And there was one time I was down at, it was in Washington, D.C. I was at the offices of NPR. And we had some security services at the front desk. And we had an officer on the front desk. And my thing was we're doing an article focusing on that particular contract, talking about NPR. We wanted to get a nice shot of him. They had a nice, their entryway had a great little logo and it was a good setup. Yeah. It was stainless steel, it looked fantastic. So the trick is, the newsletter that we put out, it's 8.5 by 11. All right. I have a 3 megapixel camera. Now, in print, good resolution requires that I have about 300 dots per inch. And this is actually, I want to go on a little tangent with that too, because sometimes I have like photographers say to me, does my image need to be 300 DPI? And I say, no, it doesn't. Okay. I actually don't care how many DPI it is. What I really care about is how many dots you have in total. Because here's the thing. If an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper was 300 DPI, that's 3,300 pixels dots by 2550 pixels dots. All right. So I could say to you, that's 8.5 by 11 at 300 DPI. That's correct. Now, I could also go to the computer and tell it to be 1 dot per inch. And if the file was 3,300 inches by 2,550 inches at 1 dot per inch, it's the same exact file.
Yeah.
All I care about is how many pixels it is. So DPI, it's not the full answer.
Yeah.
You know, should my file be 300 DPI? I don't care actually. What I care about is how many pixels total you have.
Yeah.
So back to
I've had that question a few times from other publishers. Make sure it's 300
Well, I've had
DPI.
someone get adamant that it must be. I'm like, well, actually, technically, no.
Yeah.
Really, that's just one part of the whole thing.
Is some of the publishing software, is it tricky with that? Does it require does it spit back?
None of the major modern applications that I use.
It's fine, right? Yeah.
The benchmark publications don't care, or the applications don't care.
Yeah, they don't care.
If you gave InDesign a file that was 300 DPI, 1 DPI, 72 DPI, 6,000 DPI, doesn't matter.
Right.
It's how many pixels there are.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. There's settings as far as how you treat it, but resolution is resolution, no matter how you're like what you're calling it. Like if you're traveling at 55 miles per hour, but your Canadian friend would say, no, you're going 90 kilometers.
Right. Yeah.
It's the same speed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing.
Yeah.
But back to the 3 megapixel camera that I have, a 3 megapixel camera at that time at 300 DPI for print in inches, it only gave me a file that was good for like about a 4:6 photo. Blown up, it started to fall apart for print.
Pixelized. Right?
Especially with a professional actual offset publication.
Right.
You start to notice a graininess, a softness, etc.
Yeah.
So I knew this because I had experienced it before with other things that we did. And the particular gentleman, the officer that I was shooting, he was a good-looking guy. He had a very good command presence, which is something that we look for in our officers. And I really wanted to get his expression and his face better than I could with the camera alone. So the solution at that point in time was I indeed took a shot of the setting, imagining what the finished product would be. And I filled my frame as much as possible to capture as much information as I could because I knew it would break up if I enlarged it, which had to be done for some of it. But then I took a photo where I zoomed in on just his face.
Yeah.
I had a 3 megapixel, maybe it was like 3 inches by 3 inches of his face that I later grafted onto the photo of the scene.
Oh, you stitched it together?
I composited
the
background. Because here's the thing. When you finally saw the image, what's interesting is if I had a copy of it right now,
what a bummer. Hey, you know, that goes back to what we said earlier about the tech holding you back.
Yeah.
I mean, you did all that, not because
of a restriction on the resolution.
That was a tech problem. That was a tech problem. That was not an artistic expression problem.
It was a limitation on the device.
It was a limitation of the tech.
And if you look at the finished product, if you look at his uniform, some of it's kind of modeled. Like the definition in his badge, you really can't read it. Right. Yeah. But the trick is, because I got his face really high res and brilliant in his eyes, and he had a great smile. Nobody ever looked at that image and saw that first and got distracted by the things that were like not quite up to it.
Yeah.
You know, they saw resolution, clarity, and fine detail in his face, and that tricked them into thinking the entire image was high resolution. I mean, we actually had we had it at some exhibits that we were at, or like trade shows, and there were people who were like, "Where did you get this photo?"
Right.
Because we had his face right.
Right.
And that's the thing that I think is interesting with images and even like audio recordings. If you get certain things right, certain other things could be merely okay.
Yeah.
You know, if you nail a couple key things, you can trick your audience into like seeing quality that is kind of like a little bit of a charade.
It's interesting you say that, because I think of movies that we love, and there's certain things about the movies that we love that they do so well that you ignore you ignore the little tiny plot holes that might come up, like when you really think about it too hard. But when a movie is bad, right, all those flaws really get amplified. Right. And I think that's kind of like our brains tend to do that. If it's something that we love, and we overlook the tiny flaws. Like,
Absolutely.
It's like, okay, yeah, it's got some flaws, but but when it's bad, you really fixate on all the flaws, and you start picking it apart. And at least I do. But
well, I think that works in a reverse capacity too for like artists in general, more so like musicians and actors. Like if you like, because I think about like bands, and I think about musicians and artists that they come out with like they release some music and you love it and it's popular and you love them as a result.
Yeah.
And then they come out with like subsequent albums, and maybe they're not as magical as that first one, but you still love it because now they're kind of like a friend.
Yeah.
It's a known commodity. You like them because, and had you heard that second recording or the third recording first, it was your first exposure to them, they might not have gotten you. Right.
Yeah.
It's like you give them some slack because you like them for what they previously did.
Yeah.
And it's the extension of their art in the new product.
Yeah, that's true. It's almost even with storytelling, or the character that you fall in love with, and maybe the story doesn't get that great as it continues, but you still love the character, and
there's probably
you've fallen in love with the character.
There's probably some Stephen King books.
There's enough
like, but people love them because of everything else that he's done.
Because everything else.
Because it's whole canon of work.
Right. Yeah.
If only to be that lucky that people just love my shit so much that I can put out toilet paper with smears on it and they'd be like, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. Just like, you can have those little flaws, and
I'm just gonna see if we have any other questions over here. Cool. I doubt it. It's only been Luna over here, so this is gonna be more for the people that watch it later.
All right.
But thank you, Luna.
Thank you, Luna.
Is there anything else? No, we got those. Anything new over here? Technology, man.
Yeah. It took us a while to figure this out.
Yeah, we honestly were going to have like a much more professional, instead of just going right to my laptop, we're going to have a more professional camera and audio, and things occurred so that we just set up the laptop and we're just going right off the laptop.
Again, the tech holding us back, right?
Hey, we're broadcasting right now. Okay, now nothing else to worry about.
Okay.
That said, was there any other topics you want to talk about?
No, I guess that's, I mean, if you want to talk to me about the philosophy of art and the photography, I'll go on for like hours on end. You guys are going to get completely bored by that. So,
I'm not interested in it right now. I kind of want to revisit and go back a little bit to part of why I'm here. Some months ago on Instagram, I had posted a photo of Willy Wonka, and it was very mysterious. I really didn't say anything about it. I've had the conversation with a lot of people though, and part of the reason for it was that I had a moment in time where something occurred to me, and it was very much like the story Willy Wonka, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, where when it comes to magazines, and this actually, we had something earlier today here that lends to this. Okay, we're sitting around, we're talking, we're doing some work, and it was like, hey, do you remember Barracuda magazine? And John's like, oh my God, I just sold a collection of those for some money. And I'm like, man, that was a great magazine. And then we started referencing some other magazines that existed that are no longer with us. And the thing of it is, some time ago, I started to think about, I don't want to sound morbid, but my own mortality. What would happen tomorrow if I got hit by a bus? I mean, that's a classic cliche that somebody will say, like, well, what if I got hit by a bus? What are you going to do then? But it's a true thing to think about. And with publications in general, they're not necessarily, there's no guarantee that they're forever. Oprah's O was gone. Playboy gave up on print.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are things that are not an institution, and they run their course and they're done. And Retro Lovely was something that was started 11 years ago. And when it first came out of the gate, it struck a chord because of certain things about its physical quality, the type of work that was included, the format. Like, it was just really, there was no articles. It was great imagery, represented very well. And for the span of about 3 years, it really struck a chord and became sort of it was the bucket list. Like, to be in it was like an achievement. And it was tough because there was a lot of people who wanted to be in it, and we could only produce so many. And then, of course, things change. Technology, social media, smartphones, they change how we consume media. I mean, for anybody that's watching this right now, think back to 2010, 2009. Imagine the cell phone that you had then. And notice I even said cell phone because there's only a handful of people that had what what would be called smartphones. I mean, the first iPhones were coming on the market. You had your Blackberries that people were addicted to, and I actually had a Blackberry at one point that had a web browser.
Blackberries, remember that?
And the screen resolution was like maybe 80 pixels by 40 pixels back to resolution. So like watching a video on there was just like, right? Even looking at your text was like painful to your eyes. It just didn't look good. And then you fast forward to like 2013, and many people start carrying around these devices that had screens and resolutions that were better and more sharp and brilliant than anything we've ever viewed content on. Even going to a cinema to watch a movie, it was hard pressed to like have it as good as what was in the palm of your hands. And then social media began delivering content, an unending stream of content. Like there's more photos on Instagram and Facebook than any of us will ever be able to see in our lifetime if we looked at one every second for the rest of our lives. So that affected dramatically publications. The things that used to be how we would consume that art would be buying a book, buying a magazine, buying a movie on a DVD. The devices in our pockets have supplanted a lot of that, and it made it no longer economically viable to produce it like we're producing it. And the magazine was literally in hiatus for about three plus years. And then about 3 years ago, July 5th, 2018, we relaunched, and it wasn't exactly like it was. A few of us got together and thought it was a good idea, and maybe we're going to try to do it like we had it before. But again, the hurdle of the expense versus what we could, the support that we could afford, it just didn't seem like it was a good idea. So of course we relaunched, and we do utilize different sorts of printing now that are more scalable. It's more expensive, but there's also not a lot of capital tied up at any given point in time that you need to have. So we relaunched, and there's a lot of lessons that have been learned in 3 years' time. And this is something I would say to artists too. Oh, sorry. Probably sounded crazy. This is my microphone. Johnny has it too.
Oh yeah.
The thing of it is, there's a lot of things that we've learned. And since 2018 till now, things have really changed pretty dramatically, to the point, like, honestly, when it was relaunched, I was skeptical that it would be worthwhile. I was skeptical that it would be worth the time to do it. And this is a good lesson for like artists in general, and people in general, and businesses in general. Sometimes if you try something and it doesn't work, it could be a matter of timing, okay? It could be a matter that it doesn't work today. It might be worth revisiting in some period of time. A few years in the future, you might want to try it again, because things in your environment might actually shift in such a way that it does work. And when the relaunch occurred, there was things that we did that we never did before. And between 2018 and now, if you take those first months in 2018, I think the very first relaunch issue, which would have been issue 12, probably 80% of the work in that, which was like an 80-page release, was work of my own and Kevin Myers and maybe 4 other people. If you have issue 12 and you look through it, you'll see 5 photographers responsible for all that content. Versus today, in the course of a day, there's 20 submissions from people all over the world, and it's on the rise. We've actually accomplished a lot. There's a lot that's been done. And to bring it full circle, all that work, all that progress, all of that re-entrenchment in the minds of the audience, if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, it stops. Okay? I think that's a shame. That's not a lot of vanity. That's not a lot of pride. It's just a lot of people have put their shoulder to it over time, and it's become something that's recognizable, and it's become something that people value. And for it to just stop dead cold because I drop over would be a shame. And in publishing, most publishing as I know it today, it tends to be the case. There's a few key people that are involved, and if they got sick of it and quit, if they got hit by a bus, that thing stops. And I think, much like Willy Wonka, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I thought that would be a shame. And I thought, what can we do to ensure that no matter who's at the helm, not even a singular person, people, that it has the opportunity to continue, to become something that transcends generations. Like I said to Johnny earlier, wouldn't it be cool if in 15 years, Retro Lovely was still around, and some young person got into pinup and was excited about it, did their first photo shoot, got into publication that their mom was also in, or that their grandmother was in, you know, a decade earlier. Let's try and get it to be something like that. So there's been a lot of things afoot behind the scenes, a lot of things of the work that's been done, not only has been to increase capacity and efficiency, it's been to situate things in such a way that it can be handed to another group of people and continue. So that if I get hit by that bus, there's people in place that know what to do to keep it going. And we're doing that work right now. Part of what we did here today was getting somebody else up to speed on some of the process and what makes it tick. And it wasn't just today. I mean, we talk every so often on, you know, social media and you know, cyber world, and talk about things and how things are going and what's working and what isn't, and things that we notice, and kick around ideas. And it's not just Johnny. We have partner studios, and some of them come to me with an idea. Like in the past 2 years, some of our extremely popular special editions, they have become their own entity. I mean, if you, again, thinking about Halloween, 30 volumes of content last year, thousands of pages of content.
Can I just say how amazing our partner studios are?
They're great.
These guys, I mean,
They're great.
You guys are all great.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
We come collectively together and discuss some things, and it's always a very positive and constructive, and it's a situation where we share information. I mean, it's nothing for one to talk about like some obstacle they may have in their business or their world, and others who have had the same situation will chime in and say, well, you know, this is how I approach it. This is how I handle that. Or here's a way to look at it. Like I was actually talking to somebody the other day, and I'd said something about like invoicing.
Yeah.
And so I love giving an itemized invoice so that my client, I mean, because face it, you guys, it's a lot of money. I mean, a photo shoot isn't a cheap thing that you just do casually. I couldn't afford to do it on a regular basis.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And I acknowledge that. And in the same breath, when somebody is paying a couple $100s for a session like that, one thing that I started to find useful for me in my studio, at least, was by itemizing the expenses, it helped them understand where their money's actually going.
Right.
Because what a lot of people don't realize is you walk into a studio and you hand them, say it's $200, which is a great deal. That person doesn't pocket every nickel of that. The camera that, you know, the gear that the photographer uses, the sets, insurance, overhead. Okay. Yeah. I remember the first time I started to do like an itemized list, and somebody said, what's overhead? And I said, do you think the person that owns this building that walks in here is just letting me use it for free because you want to do a photo shoot? No, they demand rent. And the power company demands bills for power. Yeah. And till everything gets said and done, if you walk through that door, it already cost me almost $80. Okay. So $80 of your fee is gone just for the privilege of us having the space to do this and have the gear and the props and everything around here to be able to do what we're going to do today. And if you take into account other talent, your makeup artist, your stylist.
Or how about our digital subscriptions that we have to have that we get billed every month?
Storage.
Thanks, Adobe. Yeah.
We were talking just a second ago about like YouTube and Facebook and Instagram compressing their files because data storage is incredible. So I was just bragging a second ago about the thousands of submissions, like since the first week of March till right now, all totaled, there's been over 2,000 submissions that come in. Okay. Now, if each one of them has 10 images and they're 5-6 megabytes in size, all right, the service that I use to accept those submissions, data storage is a component. Okay. They have different plans. If I can get away and only use so much, well, then I have to pay so much monthly. We're at a level right now where I have to have a plan that costs me $150 a month just to accept and store for a limited period of time all of the photos that you send to us for the magazine. It's $150 every month. So all those things. And like I said, when I said to this person, I'm like, you know, sometimes for your clients to help them understand why it's expensive, an itemized invoice is, for me, it was a very smart idea. Yeah. It helped my clients actually understand where their money was going.
And I get that. I get why if you don't know that, you might be like, why is this so like, you know, and then I totally understand that.
It's funny too, because sometimes I hear people
because
complain
you just
about,
don't know. You don't know what all the stuff is that we're paying for and all that.
Exactly.
You know?
When people complain about other industries, I'll just like, I'm quick to say like, you don't know what they're up against.
Yeah.
And there is competition. And between all these different companies, the price hasn't been driven down. There's a reason for it.
Right.
There's something that causes that you just don't know what it is.
Yeah.
They're not just pocketing billions of dollars
Yeah.
on your back.
No.
But the thing is, with our partner studios, we do have a lot of like conversations like that, and it is supportive. And it's been quite late. Like, I mean, COVID really took the wind out of like a bunch of a bunch of things. But we're getting back on track with a lot of that too. And so between our partner studios, who we have these conversations, we talk about the direction of the publication, we deliberate things. Like it was probably, it was a little bit after the new system came in play. We actually, I kind of spearheaded the decision and threw it to you guys where I said with Retro Lovely, you know, we added back in another title called Cat Club, which was great for like, I mean, because here's the thing. People do photo shoots and sometimes they get together and they go to some place and the girl gets dressed up and she fixes her hair and they take some photos and you know what? They're fun. They are fun, but they're not fine art. They're not a planned photo shoot with a lot of attention to detail. And there's things about it that while it's fun, while she looks fantastic, there's things about it that aren't polished. And we made the decision to gravitate Retro Lovely back to what it was originally, where it was for the best of the best. And Cat Club was a great vehicle for things that are fantastic, but maybe there's elements about it that missed the mark a little bit.
Right.
And when it came to Retro Lovely, one of the things that we had the discussion was, let's get it back to like a single cover. There's one cover model, not split. Make it literally raise that bar back up. So it's like, it's more, I don't want to say exclusive, but it's when you submit work and we accept it for Retro Lovely, know that the people behind the scenes looked at that work and said, this is good. Okay. It's artists looking at that, reviewing it, saying this deserves to be in this title because it has those things that check all those boxes. And, you know, if you think just to step out into the field in your sundress and your hat and your hair's a little bit messy because of the humidity, the day will come where you do a finely crafted session and have some amazing work, and you'll appreciate that it's amongst other work that's of the same caliber. Okay, and that's really what it's about. It's basically giving everything a place and saying this is where it belongs. But we had those discussions. We talked about like the pros and cons. How do we feel about it? Do we think it's a good idea? Sometimes we deliberate things, and I mean.
No, that's why. It's all good, but it's a matter of like this is why you have a menu at a restaurant, because not everybody wants the same thing. So
exactly.
it's
exactly right.
Yeah.
So between our partner studios, between some freelancers helping with layouts now, and getting other people involved to the point of understanding more about the business, we are working towards what I call my Willy Wonka moment. If I should drop dead tomorrow, I hope to have people in place that Retro Lovely lasts generationally. Okay, let's take it from being a magazine to an institution. Let's get it to be that sort of thing where it's beyond. Because face it, great magazines that we know, magazines that we've loved, and they're gone.
Yeah, we just mentioned Barracuda, a long time ago. Right?
I'm still trying to think of the name of that one from Australia.
Yeah, no, I don't know what that one is.
They had cars. They had great work. It was fantastic. You can only get it at certain places in the States. It was good. Yeah. There was another one out of the UK that I thought was pretty fun too. It was called Milk Cow, and they had it on newsstands over there. And there was a point where I was buying cartons of their issues, getting them here, and I had them in our store online.
Okay, yeah.
I was selling Milk Cow. I was selling Bachelor Pad. There was some other stuff from Australia that I was getting too. Like there's a point where I basically said like. Because I realized, with shipping, international shipping was a disaster.
Yeah.
Like stuff getting damaged and everything else.
Yeah.
But shipping a whole carton of stuff, the survivability was better.
Okay. Yeah.
And it made sense from a standpoint of shipping costs, because if each individual ordered a magazine from Great Britain,
oh, sure. Yeah.
all that shipping on individual ones. Well, if they sent me a carton.
You save in the scale.
And then I'm also sending you a copy of Retro Lovely and Bachelor Pad, right?
Yeah.
It was almost like a clearinghouse, effectively. But again, you all start buying smartphones and looking at stuff for free on your social media apps. Milk Cow's gone. I mean, Bachelor Pad is still around, putting out some great stuff.
Yeah.
There's people trying, so do support them. And we appreciate your support as well.
There's something about print, something about having that in your hand that I love looking at photography in a digital format, but there's just nothing that like replaces print. I don't know. There's that visceral feeling. Yeah.
There's a strange aspect too of like we talked about the presentation sizing.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. I was at the studio cleaning out because we're closing the official Retro Lovely studio because I'm so busy with things that like I really don't have time to even like do photography. But I'm in cleaning out the studio and I found a couple issues of different magazines that were down there. And I started like thumbing through them. Yeah. And I found some sessions and some work that I remembered on the computer screen. And you can zoom in and out. You know, you can change the perspective.
Right.
You decide real time what you're viewing.
That's true. Yeah.
And having it constrained and fixed. It was like, oh wow, okay. Yeah. It makes you look at it that way.
Yeah, there's
that's pretty awesome.
I mean, when you you know, do an exhibit too with your print, that goes into that question comes into like what size do you want your prints? What size do you want this print in relation to this print?
I was just gonna say that.
And you tell a whole story even with that. Like you were, because we were going over how to do these layouts, and I was like,
ordering. People don't realize sequencing.
And I was like, well, you know, one of the things that you know, I think maybe people I mean, it's not like the most important thing in the world, but like maybe like some storytelling, like a beginning and an end, a beginning, a middle, and end, you know. And I think sometimes when you have like a series of shots and a series of prints that tell a story, it is special. Yeah.
I think well, contrast too, because like what we're kind of like tucked upon with layouts when we're talking about sequencing. So, you know, you have a magazine, you have who's up front. We typically put the cover model feature up front, and it's like, what do you follow that with? And here's the thing, and I've noticed this like sometimes when I shoot, I'll do different things with lighting where maybe I'm using like specific modifiers like grids.
Right.
I'm a sucker for grids.
Yep.
And if I'm working with somebody and we've got a great set and I'm shooting with my grids and I'm seeing some cool things, and then I say, all right, I'm going to throw an umbrella on here now, or a box, soft box. After having seen 100 images that look fantastic with the grids and everything else,
right.
Sometimes those first few images with the umbrellas and the boxes, I go, wow, oh my God, these are so awesome, right? Then you get 100 deep in those, and you go back to the grids.
Right.
You're like, no, this is better, right?
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes you get drunk with a certain style. You get overwhelmed with a particular look. Yeah. So if it's in the publication, and let's say a dozen artists send us classic cheesecake photos of a model on pink background paper, okay, and the entire issue is that. Pretty soon you're not gonna be able to like understand. Your mind is gonna get blurry, and you're not gonna understand each one of them and appreciate them as much as if the issue was half that and half moody, dark, evocative, shadowy stuff interspersed.
Right.
Like when you go to a restaurant and you have a meal.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need things to cleanse your palate.
It's the same thing with everything, right?
It's caviar. Pretty soon you're like, oh my God, a taco? Taco sounds amazing.
Right. Or if a movie has got the same background all the time,
and the same tempo.
It's not edited enough.
Yeah.
And it's like
Yeah. Sometimes to appreciate things, we need to contrast.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. You start to it starts to I don't know the right word, but just
runs together.
Yeah. It just runs together in your mind, and you start to like
Oh, we have some other questions on here.
Okay.
Oh, Billie Jane DeVille. Nothing beats that print copy in your hands.
Yes, I agree.
There's Gene. Nothing beats print.
Yeah, I agree. Nothing beats it.
No. And shout out to Billie Jane DeVille. She's one of our spokesmodels.
Yes.
We literally earlier in the year launched. It's not the first time we've ever done special model editions where it's one publication of one artist, one model. Now, I say artist. We'd actually done some retrospective editions of some of our partner studios last year.
Yeah, that was fun.
We did one issue of one studio and their work. So it was like a retrospective of their stuff.
Yeah.
And we've done model editions before. In fact, in 2011 or 2012, there was a model who I've become really good friends with, love her to death, Kelvis Pinup. And back in the day when we were printing pallet loads of the magazine, we had a great wholesale. We had a great wholesale value that if you were like in an issue, you could get copies for like $4, and they were big, impressive 120-page magazines that you could easily sell for $15, $20. And if you're doing an event, you could get them and sell them, or sell them to your friends, or do whatever. And she was one of the first models that like really like took advantage of that. She was going to like events. She had booths that she set up. She sold hair flowers that she made, and she contacted me. She said, "I understand if I'm in a magazine, I can buy them at wholesale and then I can sell them." I'm like, yeah, absolutely. and she ordered like 30 copies of something that she was in, and she liked one page. Because back then in Retro Logo, if you got a page, that was like a big deal. Because sometimes it was 3 models on a page. We just didn't have the space. And she started selling them. And when she got that first shipment, she called me back within days, or it was an email, and she's like, they're gone already.
Right.
And from the $150 that they cost me, I now have $450. I'd like to get as many magazines as I could buy with that.
Right.
So that's like a couple cartons at this point. And I send them to her. And she blows through them like in a week. And then she says, can I also sell other magazines I'm not even in? I'm like, absolutely you can. So she started carrying every damn issue that we had. And the thing of it was at the time, in addition to wholesale, I would give them to people on consignment. And a big part of that was because sometimes if you're like at an event, if you underestimate, you got 30 copies and you sold them out within the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
How many could you have sold that day?
That's happened to me before. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So wouldn't it be nice if somebody said, all right, well, we've got a reservoir of copies. We don't think 35 is enough. We're going to send you 150.
Yeah.
And if you can sell 100, keep the profit, pay us for the wholesale on those 100, and we'll figure out what to do with the other 50. Maybe you want to buy them and cart them around for your next show. Or if you need to send them back, we'll do that too. We'll work it out. But at least you'll know you're not going to run out.
Yeah.
And she started doing that. Like we'd send her tons of stuff on consignment, and she was moving a lot of product. And the point finally came where I said, for the work that you're doing, I think we could do like a special edition of just your stuff and do this. And this was like 1,000 copies or so. And we did it. And it was exciting. But, fast forward social media, things die. Stuff isn't that lucrative.
Right. Yeah.
And we fast forward to like about a year ago, and we gave the first one we did was with Miss Jenna Purrs. And she's like just knocked it out of the ballpark. I think last time I checked with her special edition, she's moved almost 200 copies.
Nice. Yeah.
And based on the numbers as far as what she's able to buy them at and sell them at, we're talking 4 figures of profit for her. And the thing that like I really like, because we had this conversation, right?
And you're the only magazine that's doing this.
Right. Well, we had the conversation. You actually asked me like, well, shouldn't you be making something out of that?
Yeah.
And I said, well, no, we do it with the other publications. When we get to this stage and we acknowledge and recognize that a model is doing something and doing the work and doing something special, this is us saying thank you. Okay. Thank you for your time and effort. And thank you for being a good partner. Another component of it is that anybody that we've done these things with, they haven't asked for them. They haven't like said, oh, can I please have this? Okay. Every special edition that we've done like this has been where I sit and I see things and I finally send an email to somebody and say, hey, I see what you're doing over here. I think it's pretty impressive, and you've supported us. And to say thanks, I want to do this for you. And we put together that special edition. The model gets the files, they upload it, they sell it, they keep every penny. And when I told you those numbers a couple of weeks ago, you're like, well, shouldn't you be getting a piece of that? And I said, no, this is I said, I don't want it to be tainted with, oh, well, they're doing it because they're getting a piece.
Yeah.
They're getting some money out of it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is finally to that point where it's like, no, they deserve that stuff.
Yeah.
Because those opportunities just don't exist.
Yeah. You're paying back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's the right thing to do. And it's a good way to show people like, you know what, if you come together, you can actually do something versus just looking for the handout or expecting that things should be done for you.
Yeah.
But I'm excited about that. Like I want to do more of those. Like we have a couple in the pipeline right now.
Yeah.
And these gals that have done heavy lifting, Billie Jane DeVille is one of them. Like she actually, because we have a group, just like we have partner studios, there's a spokesmodel group. Yeah. And she posted a photo the other day of her at an event.
Yeah.
With a table, stuff she has for sale, and she's selling signed copies of the magazine.
Nice.
And she's making some money.
Yeah.
And it's like, that I'm excited about. Yeah. And I want more of that. I want like dozens of those. Like
I think
the course of the year.
You're building a bigger and larger community. Yeah. So that's
it's not just a one-way street.
Yeah.
It can't be. So nice to see from you, Billie Jane. And there's Jean. There's Billie Jane loves Jenna. No one else does that more appreciating. Well, thank you, Billie Jane. I really do appreciate it as well. We've talked on the phone a few times. She has a great Southern drawl.
Oh yeah.
It's awesome. It's really awesome. But
I like Kevin's.
Kevin has it too.
I like Kevin's accent. Yeah.
God, Kevin admires the coastal expressions. Kevin, if you ever get to see this, we were talking about you yesterday. We hope everything's going great. Yeah. And we'll talk soon.
Yeah. We wish you and your family well, and we hope.
Yeah. Kevin's doing right by his family right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very commendable.
Good dude. Very good dude.
Billie Jane calling out her Southern drawl.
Yeah. Now, sorry, you got us East Coast. I was making fun of Michael yesterday because I took him to a Hawaiian poke bowl place, and he, instead of chopsticks, he gets the fork. I was like, "Oh, Pennsylvania boy, getting the fork."
It was good food. I needed to get it all inside me as quickly as possible without any spillage. I can't use chopsticks. Okay, I could dig a hole with a twig, but I choose to use a shovel. Okay. But anyway, the Willy Wonka moment. We're doing work so that hopefully Retro Lovely is going to be around in 50 years. Okay, this is about setting the stage that it can continue, and there is a community, and I think it's possible. I think it's possible to get it situated that, it's not going to just stop with one person. So we're doing that work behind the scenes. With regards to scalability, we are doing things right now to meet the demand of what's going on. It's very close to hitting the wall. If it was not for the help of the freelancers that I have working with me, like Johnny and Paola, if you get to see this, hello, and Sean. Actually, Ray Sanchez. Sorry about that, messed up. Appreciate the efforts, because I would be so behind right now, it would not even be funny. I mean, just to give everybody an example, I do it full time, and there was a point where I was probably working 12 hours a day just to keep up. And it got such that I realized if that trend continued, it would break. And luckily, at the beginning of the year, I finally got things together such that we built a system that has done an amount of work as far as like reducing, things that you do over and over and over. All the things that you just repetitively do. We've been able to situate it so that a lot of that manual labor has been automated. There's been a lot of tasks that are now automated. And as an extension of this, to talk a little bit about the submission process, when you're in there and you're making submission or you're filling out your credit information, there's a lot of information on there about your attention to detail. Okay. And here's the thing. We're very, very busy. There's emails I can't get to answer. There's people I need to talk to. Miss Jennifer sent me an autographed copy for model edition. It's sitting on my desk and I'm looking at it. I don't get to thank her until like a week later. Okay. There's things that are prioritized, and there's things that aren't getting accomplished because of the sheer volume of things. One of the things that anybody that wants to take part in this can do to help is just pay attention to detail. When you give us your information, check it again. Did you spell your name right? Okay. I hate to say it, but like if you give us your name and it's incorrect, what you literally type in is what ends up in the print copy of the products at this point. And it has to be that way, because we can't sit down with every single person, hundreds a week, and say, are you sure you meant to spell your name with all lowercase letters? Yeah. Is this how you spell your name? Because we've seen it before and it was different. Sometimes you change it. Models change their
we don't want to second guess what you meant, because
we can't second guess. We have to trust that what you give us is accurate.
Because I think early on I did second guess a couple times and I was wrong. I was like no, they want this mark here and they want it lowercase and uppercase here, and I'm like, okay, then we don't want to second guess that.
And if we literally spent the time to actually ask the question every time, again, we'd be out of business. We would not be able to handle. Yeah. You would not get submission responses in 24 hours. You would not see your stuff printed within a couple of weeks. Sometimes people send work and it comes in and it's just timed so perfectly that they get their credit information together. And it just so happens that the content that they had is fitting for an issue that is almost ready to be released, that needs one more spread to be released. And like, I've had people that make the submission, they get the credits done, and within 3 days it's published because of timing. Now, some special editions, like right now, if you submit something for Halloween, well, we're not going to start releasing them until the beginning of October. So to think that that's going to be that fast for certain ones, that's not realistic too. But the turnaround is pretty quick. Unlike a lot of, we talked about our own personal situations where we've had work that, like,
it seemed like they just languished.
There's been stuff that I had something in Playboy one time, and they're like, yeah, we're going to use it. And it's like, well, what's your ballpark? We don't know. Right. A year later, I'm in Playboy. So not me personally, but my photo. Nobody wants to see that. So that's the thing. It's like we understand that getting the response on the submissions in a timely manner is important. We understand that getting the work published in a timely manner is important, and we have to choose our battles as far as what we choose to do, what we can handle as far as contact. to make sure that we don't lose those two core principles, that timeliness.
Yeah.
We know that's important. It's important to us. It's important to
time efficiency.
We've been exactly in your shoes. I mean, we've been there ourselves with other publications. So
we don't want to get it wrong. We don't want to second guess, so we don't have time. To do that either.
We like it to be real smooth. I mean, there are some people that talked to you about this earlier, but with the submission process, I think it's pretty clear that there's a lot of artists that choose us first because of the process. Because it's reliable, because it's consistent, because they know how it works, and it's not endless emails. We talked about like releases and things, about like getting a release from a magazine that you have to print out a Microsoft Word document so you can sign it and scan it and get it back to them.
It's cumbersome.
It's cumbersome. And then as an artist, we had that other situation where I showed you that one instance, because like right now with the submission process, if you're a model and you make a submission, the photographer gets to see what you sent them. And since the new system is in place, I can count at least 5 instances where a photographer has emailed me and said, do not publish that work because the model took what I gave her and ran it through Facetune or AutoTune or whatever those programs that you all love that puts donkey ears on your head. Okay. Unless you have permission to edit a photographer's photo, don't. Okay. Ask them. And don't assume that you can just go and do it yourself and submit it and have them be happy about it. What I really like about the new process as well is that the photographers get to see exactly what was submitted. And it's warded off some problems already.
Yeah, it's good to, and then also the photographer and the model are both seeing which images are being sent in, so you guys exactly which I mean, I always send everything in, but
and I've had a few instances where the photographer actually had given like the model some advanced proofs that were not edited. And they said, no, not these can't be used because they were the raw files.
Oh, okay. So I mean, I always try to get everybody to sign off on what I'm submitting. It's like, do you guys like it? Yes. Send it in.
So there's a lost art of communication. There's a lot of people that just assume things and don't just talk to the person. Get an email to them, say, hey, I want to do this, and is this cool? And make sure everybody's on the same page. Let them know that that there's going to be a release that they need to sign, that they have to do it online. Because I do have part of the routine weekly is we go through and we look at releases and see what's missing. Very often you'll get somebody who makes the submission, we review it, we accept it, hopefully they get that information, both parties get the information, and the person that made the submission is usually pretty quick as far as getting their credit information filled out and signing off on it. The other party, however, might not be as excited about it as you are. Okay, for them it might be a bit more cumbersome because they've got stacks of stuff they got to do, and they go, I'll get to it tomorrow, or in a couple of days, and then it never happens. And in the past there has been a lot of people who I'll send the email and say, I got your release, but I didn't get your collaborators. And well, they said they did it. And I'll say, well, I don't have it. And then I'll hear, well, they said they did it. And I'll say, well, I still don't have it. Well, they said they did it. I don't have it. I need it. I don't have it. Okay. What they told you is one thing. With the new process, what's nice is I can send a reminder, and you, the person who made the submission, can look and see for yourself whether or not they actually did what they said they did. You have the ability to look and see if it was done. And that's been monumental.
There's always the problem sometimes with just the internet and the browsers in general that you use, that sometimes you think you've hit the submit button and everything's okay, but just something just didn't record, and then, but now with this process, you know that
because you can go back and look.
You can go back and double check.
You can see for yourself. There's no signature where it should be. And that's something that happens a lot. Because I had done some phone support with a tech company, and something that a lot of people don't realize is the information superhighway isn't absolute. Like the pathing, there's different servers and switching stations that reroute things all the time. And you might be in the middle of something, and there might have been an interruption of servers. Like if a particular IP address had a bad actor on it, some entity that was sending out millions of emails, okay? The internet at large monitors for that stuff and says, whoa, no. And they shut the bridge off. They pull up the drawbridge and they stop traffic. Traffic has to get rerouted. Sometimes when those things happen, you could be in the middle of something and it doesn't
falls through.
It doesn't stick. So if it does, if you get what you think is like a false whatever, you can always go back to the form and look. If you go back and it's there, it's there.
Yeah.
If you go back and it's not, well, then we don't have it. So
yeah,
it's working like a champ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is definitely unique. I think that we have
and
this.
There's a lot of room for improvement. Like I do feel kind of proud that the system as it was set up was like sort of like a first go. I mean, there was some coaxing, but it was built from scratch, utilizing a lot of new tools, and the fact that it is actually functional and has helped us get 2,000 plus submissions in the course of a few months.
Like I know when you were sitting on my studio's portal, that what took us like about 10, 15 minutes at most.
Right.
I think.
Yeah. And the thing is, like in the amount of time from then till now, there's been lessons learned that at some point there'll be a submission portal 2.0 that will hopefully address some of the issues that we have at the moment. Like I actually realized there's some things with certain emails, like I was telling you, that because of the way the thing works, in order for it to update everybody, it only sends the most recent thing that we told it.
Yeah.
So a person could be asked for information, and then they immediately get an email that says, well, we need this.
Yeah.
It's just a byproduct of that thing. So it's the lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
We've added some language that hopefully explains that if people actually read, which is another issue entirely. But
a few more comments.
Oh, yeah. Who do we got there? There's Billy Jane. There's Rick Crane.
Nice.
Models and their self-edits. Yeah. Rick, we feel you. We've been there. Then there are those of us that have shot with Johnny so much that I swear I have a Calypso Gene checklist that he goes by. I've been there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's why I really enjoy people who continue to come back, because I kind of like fall into a groove with them. I know what I know what works best, and you know, I really enjoy that. Yeah.
Well, it's nice because it's like a dynamic that's like different than a first shoot.
Yeah. And that discovery process is fun.
Yep.
You know, so, yeah.
So that's where we are. And I don't know if I want to spell it out, but as we get things dialed in further, and we've got some more team members on board that will help with this. There's some other things that I want to do before I die that might be kind of fun. Talked to Johnny about it a little bit earlier. I was kind of brainstorming as far as what's possible with this thing. But I think it's time that we have it for this community. So hopefully in a few months I'll fess up and tell you what it is. But at that, I think I'm done talking.
Yeah.
Good?
We're going to keep that a secret.
All right.
All right.
So closing this up means that my hand is going to have to come at the screen in order for me to end things. So later I'll edit this. But for everybody live right now, thanks for joining us. Thanks for the questions. Yeah. Hope you learned something. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your time today. And we hope to see lots more of everybody. Let's keep making this great art and continuing this story. This is a great story. Let's keep it going.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks much.
Appreciate it.
This is that awkward moment where your face is like this and you're trying to figure out how to shut it off.